Welcome, I'm Pat, that Halloween movie collector, and welcome to That 70's Movie Review, where I'll be reviewing movies from my earlier youth. I'm a child of the 70's, and there's so many great movies, whether it be horror, comedy, drama, thriller, that came out in the 70's. So I thought, you know what, let's pick a few of my favorites and just do quick reviews on them, and hopefully you'll enjoy it, learn a little bit about the movie. Maybe if you haven't seen it, it'll inspire you to go watch it. And if you don't like it, by all means, comment below and let me know if it's a movie that you didn't enjoy. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. That's just how it rolls here. So I thought for the first That 70's Movie Review, pick one of my favorite movies of all time from 1979, The Warriors. Based on the book by Sol Yurick and directed by Walter Hill, famous for movies like for the 48 Hours, Another 48 Hours, just a lot of great movies from the 80s. And this is a movie set in New York City based on a group of street gangs. The whole story of the movie is there's one street gang, the Gramercy Riffs, who are technically the biggest gang in all of New York, all the 5 boroughs, and they hold a big meeting at Van Cortlandt Park, which is in the Bronx, to basically say, let's keep our truce up. Everybody is maintain your own turf. Let's keep the truce up between all of the gangs because we're together as one. We outnumbering the police, I think, by 3-1, I think they said, with the amount of people they have in all these gangs. I mean, it's just, Van Cortlandt Park is huge, and it's just filled with all these gang members. And during this speech by Cyrus, the leader of the Gramercy Riffs, he's inspiring everybody. Everybody's getting, all excited for this. And one of the gangs, the Rogues, led by a guy named Luther, David Patrick Kelly, great actor who was in some of my favorite movies. Actually, 2 things right off the top of my head. If you haven't seen Dreamscape, he's in Dreamscape. He's great in that. One of my favorite episodes of Tales from the Dark Side, Slippage, he's in that. And, of course, another Walter Hill movie, he plays, same name, Luther. Plays opposite James Remar, who's also in this movie, too, as Ajax. So, a lot of crossover there. But he's the leader, Luther, of this gang. And he's just got a screw loose. He's just out of control. And during the speech that Cyrus is given, he shoots him dead. And for no other reason that you'll find out later in the movie is because he said, I just like doing things like that. No other reason. And he's spotted by one of the warriors. So he quicks and flips the script and tries to blame the warriors. So the whole movie is them. They're from Coney Island. That is their turf. So the whole movie is the warriors trying to find their way back to Coney Island. And along the way, they're encountering all the different gangs between there and Coney Island. You have groups like the Turnbull ACs, who are in a modified school bus, and they're trying to run them down as they're trying to run to the subway platform to get away. So that's one group they run into. They run into a real low-level group, a gang that basically wasn't even invited to this because they're so low-level that they weren't even invited to this big giant meeting that took place at Van Cortlandt Park, called the Orphans. And they come across, and they're kind of very not laid back, but not as excitable as most gangs if you were to encroach on their territory. And of course, they were about to let them go, and you throw in the mix Mercy, played by Deborah Van Valkenburg, probably most famous for playing in Too Close for Comfort as Ted Knight's daughter. So she's kind of like a prostitute, slut, just with a big mouth, and she's eggs them on to, like, well, how are you going to just let them walk through here? You're a bunch of wimps. So that plays out, and then, of course, they come after them, and they throw a Molotov cocktail at them, blow up a car, and they're able to move past the low-level orphans. And, of course, she tags along, and she's basically tagging along for the whole movie. At one point, they do splinter off because they get separated when they're ambushed by New York City police at one of the subway platforms. Actually, one of the warriors gets thrown in front of a moving subway and gets killed. So they splinter off, and 3 of the members of the warriors end up meeting up with a group called the Lizzies, which is an all-girl gang. They know who the Warriors are. The Warriors don't know who they are, so they get them back to their apartment, and they're hanging out and partying and trying to get them all relaxed. And then they turn on them, trying to kill them. And that's when they first find out that they were getting pinned for assassinating Cyrus, because when the girl says it to them right as they're starting to shoot at them, and they manage to escape, and that's how they realized that they were being framed. And soon enough, they're followed by the Punks, which are a roller skating gang. So this just shows you the time period, 1979, where roller skating was still big. There was a lot of roller skating rinks. I used to roller skate. Everybody did. So there was roller skating movies, Skate Town USA, Roller Boogie. There's they used to have just so much. Roller skating was very big at the time. So there's a group riding around on their roller skates, and they come after the Warriors, chase them into a bathroom, and that they come out, and the Warriors defeat them too, and manage to move on. There's a scene where Ajax, James Remar, splinters off because he sees a pretty woman and in the park, and it gets a little rough with her. Turns out to be an undercover cop, so he gets arrested. So he's off and out of the movie at that point. Then they do right before that, they ran into a group called the Baseball Furies. All these guys with white and black paint splitting down their face, and they're all dressed in baseball uniforms, and they're chasing everybody with bats. I mean, there's just such cool visuals in this. It's insane. So they defeat them, and that's when that part happens where they get splintered off. And then little by little, they're getting closer and closer to Coney Island. And they're encountering all this stuff along the way. Great fight scenes, a lot of action in it. Great acting too from a lot of these actors who not all of them really went on to greater heights. Some of the guys that played the Warriors, or they were probably all local New York City actors at the time. But just filmed well, a lot of great visuals, a lot of great fight scenes, and then eventually they do make it to Coney Island, and who's there waiting for them? The Rogues, which has that famous scene with David Patrick Kelly where he's got the beer bottles on his fingers, singing "Warriors Come Out to Play," which I had right at the beginning of this video. It's a very iconic scene. So they follow them out to the beach, right by the water, because they figure this is where it's going to go down, and he manages to get the best of David Patrick Kelly, who's Swan, who's the war chief of the Warriors. And lo and behold, he turns, and there's this huge group of people, and it's the Gramercy Riffs. They've located them. And during this, somebody comes to them and says, "You need to hear this," because it turns out there was another eyewitness who will say that it's the Rogues that did it, not the Warriors. So they're there. And they say, "Yeah, we know. We found what we came looking for." They know it's them, and they let the Warriors leave. And then you just see them encompass the Rogues, which means they probably killed them. And then it just rides off into the sunset with the Warriors and In the City. Great song, Joe Walsh. It's just a fun movie. This movie has a lot of nostalgia for me because back in 1980, cable wasn't the biggest thing in northern New Jersey where I was from. So I used to have cousins that would come over on the weekends and we'd hang out and they'd sleep over and we'd watch movies because we had cable at the time and they didn't even have cable. Shows you the dark ages. So it was actually Halloween night, 1980, and we had trick-or-treated and we were coming home because at 9 o'clock, we were going to watch The Warriors. We wanted to see the movie. So we watched The Warriors and loved it. Still love it to this day. And right after that on HBO, coming up next, Murderer Stalks Babysitters. It was Halloween. Look around me. So that's when I first saw Halloween, was because I was watching The Warriors. So that's why it's so significant. I love the movie to begin with. It's just one of my favorite movies. But I sat there and we said, "Oh yeah, let's watch this movie Halloween," because it was Halloween night. We hadn't even heard of it. It had only come out 2 years before. Yeah, that was 1980. And back then, when movies were released in the theaters, before they came out on HBO or Cinemax or anything at the time, it was usually a year between that and when they were released. Like nowadays, it's like movies in the theater and another week or so, it's streaming somewhere, and then you can just watch it. Or they're being released. Look at the last two Halloween movies in the David Gordon Green trilogy. They were released on Peacock the same day they were released in the theater. You didn't even have to go to the theater. So it's just, that's the nostalgia for me about this. But this is specifically a review for The Warriors. I don't even know if I should even bother with a review for Halloween, because everybody knows how Halloween fanatic I am. I probably will do one, but I figure let's start with The Warriors. So back to The Warriors. So this movie it's become such a cult movie too. A lot of people, there's a lot of nostalgia for this movie. A lot of people love this movie. A lot of the actors, like especially James Remar, David Patrick Kelly, appear at a lot of conventions because people want to get Warrior stuff signed. You see Warriors T-shirts now, Warriors memorabilia. There's figures that have been released. It's amazing how this has just become a phenomenon over 44 years later, which is great because it deserves everything it gets. And it was actually, I think it had mixed reviews at the time, but it's just gained such a big following. Now, for me, as I'm doing these reviews, it's basically going to be 1 through 5 is easier. So for me, this movie is easily a 4.5 for me. And what I'm going to be doing is, it's the 70s. So it's going to be 4.5 smiley faces. Oh, figure why not? Bring out some 70s nostalgia. So if you haven't seen The Warriors, go watch it. You see it from time. If you have Pluto, I always see it on Pluto on the Cult, either the Cult or the 70s movie channel. It's always on, and those movies are uncut, so you'll see the whole movie in all its glory. You can get their special editions. I have one of the special editions, so it's not hard to find it somewhere to watch it. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I advise it highly because you will like this movie. So with that being said, there's my first That 70s movie review. The Warriors, go check it out. One of my favorites of all time. You won't be disappointed. Comment below. Let me know how you like the reviews. Any movies you'd like me to do a review of from the 70s. I got a big long laundry list, but I thought for sentimental reasons, let's start with The Warriors. So be sure to like this video. Helps everybody find us. Check out all the links to the descriptions down below. I have links to my Halloween collectors page, my Instagram page, Twitter. We do that horror movie podcast every Sunday night. That's all information below here. Don't want to ramble on, but check everything out below. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. And until then, I'll see you on the next That 70s movie review.